He said, I'll prove to them. I'll take my chances. I'll take my risks. And whatever comes my way, I'm going to make the best out of it.
I just thought this is just, it's so inspiring.
At first, I thought it's just the way of life, the way my parents treated me and kept me separate in many respects from the rest of the kids. But as I got older, I did notice it's a color issue, that I'm in a different school, they in other schools, they're not hidden, I'm hidden, and I knew I had to play along.
Now, this has been a radical history, and for us, it really depicts something that we never, we suffer to understand that. But I think there are peripheral figures all the time, like the lady across the road. In the first place that's described in the book, there's a neighbor who works for some or other government department, and they all were peeping in all the time. How did you feel about these people?
Yeah, well, the first one that peeped in was when I was a real little baby, Mrs. Markey, and she worked for the government. So, and this was when we lived in Epping. So my parents knew I had to be hidden because she couldn't see me. But the only way they could find their freedom was if they left Epping, which was pure white and Afrikaans, to go to Woodstock, where we were a mixed bag of people, and there was more freedom. And so we moved there, but even there was a lady across the road that stood out with her broom all day and just looking for passers-by for gossip, and she's the one who kept interrogating us.
And even as a young boy, he didn't feel that he was heard at all. He was this guy behind the cupboard. He had to be hidden away. He had to express himself in some way, but society wasn't ready to accept that.
Obviously, I wanted them,
Your parents?
my parents and family, to succeed in this race game, and because as they succeed, indirectly I succeed later on. First, they are adults, they're my parents, and secondly, why should I sabotage what the family really wants? And so I just continued living, as they say it, the boy behind the wardrobe. When the lady across the road who looked after my brother, too much conflict happened and she was too inquisitive, so my mother decided to change to my neighbor next door, Aubrey's, Collins's mother, and they were excellent. And in fact, Aubrey Collins's father's brother taught Randall Wicomb, my brother, to play guitar.
My way.
Yes, that's how it all started.
Ek gaan julle nou 'n grap vertel en julle moet nie treur. Dit was daar op Oom Piet se plaas dat 'n ding daar gebeur. Dans met die rooi rok, die hartland van my. Dis die rooi rok, dis die mooi rok, dis die rooi rok wat vaai. Katarina, die dryfies word gesny. Help my met die mandjie, dit raak te swaar vir my. Oh.
Randall was a success. Randall was the National Party's hero. Randall was the track leader of the commemorative track of 1988 of the Groot Trek. Totally white, totally acceptable in the white society, totally the darling of white society with his Afrikaans and the Griekwa songs that he sang. Whereas Winston, who did massive work in the transplant history, just disappeared into the background. I think it's very difficult to imagine the trauma that Randall and Winston went through as children. And even add to that their parents at that stage. So it was a very convoluted path, with Randall becoming the white brother and Winston being the unacceptably colored child. And later on, I think Randall must have felt that life owed Winston more.
At first, it started with my two teachers. The Perseus Adams, who was totally out of his mind, but he gave us direction. That I shouldn't just take every word that comes my way as reality and hurt me or do whatever, because as he said, it's just sound waves that enter the ear. Imagine someone walking in and says, we'll talk about syntax, and forget all the other crap, and then the next minute he'll say, who's got silver foil on their lunch? And then he says, take your lunch out and wrap the foil around the intercom so that it doesn't allow the sound to get to the principal's office. And then all of a sudden he'd take his briefcase, stand at the window, and said, don't with me, and pulled out the gun.
He drew a gun on Kenny.
No, he drew it on the class. And then he sends Leon, one of the guys, to the bottle store to go buy drinks. And that was also weird. The other one was Mr. Williams, who actually showed an interest in me, the opposite. And he wanted me to become something. He was one of the bigger mentors at that stage. He somehow thought I had some character or personality. And although I was probably the naughtiest boy in school, and we wrote some aptitude test, and to me it's just something. And then he interviewed all of us, and he ended up saying, Winston, you know what? I thought it's going to be reprimanding me, but he came and said, there's something really good about you. And let me tell you, it looks like you're going to be a doctor. And he said, and you would be you're the second person in this school that would ever probably become something. I repaired a friend's car. He was illegally catching crayfish, and the car got trapped by the waves. And so he came home, and he was going to take Paddy on a big trip around. And so the mechanic, we went to go tow the car out, and I had to strip that engine that day and have it ready the morning. And he said to me, I don't have any money to pay you, but my girlfriend is just having a new girl move in the house. She is a beauty, and you haven't got a hope in hell the way you look, but you can have dinner with us. And it was about time, as Paddy was dishing up, Jeannie came walking down the hallway. So I don't turn around, my back is to the hallway, and she's walking in the kitchen. She had a grey jacket on and a grey skirt, and she actually had a nice leg those days. So when I looked, I thought, wow, what lovely legs.
First thing I saw about him was his arms. He had these really smooth and muscular arms, and I was intrigued. So he had dinner with us, and you know, his manners were a little rough around the edges, coming from Woodstock. So I remember feeling instant attraction to him, but it was more like his magnetic personality.
So I just thought she was beautiful, but I don't have a hope in hell. And then she says, like, what do you do, you know? And I told her, yeah, well, one of the things I do, I teach. She says, oh, I can't drive. Can you teach me to drive?
I was very sort of smitten with him, so I was happy to learn to drive. And, you know, he would take me out once or twice a week, I forget, and we would go driving. So we had this, it wasn't like going on a date. We had this, he was the teacher and I was the student, and he was taking me around all the parking lots and all the little streets of, you know, Cape Town around the university. So we had a lot of time to be friends and flirt, and that's how it started. Well, he was certainly driven in many ways, and he was always, why am I alive? You know, he was, I think, 25 when I met him, and, you know, he felt like life was already passing him by. And that might have been because he was an older student at that time. So he felt a little bit left behind. So very driven, very focused, but also very adventurous and playful. And, you know, anything could happen when you were with Winston, which was part of the intrigue.
As much as I met her and loved this gorgeous lady, I saw the whiteness in her and that she was interested in me. So then this was a weapon, because if she hooks her arm with me and walks, no white guy's going to come to me, get out the restaurant or get off the bus. She was oblivious of all of this, and I just kept that secret.
I feel like there was a lot that was just never said. I can only remember twice something happening. One was a friend, and this was actually much earlier, right after I met Winston, sort of saying, you know, he's very nice, but he's not one of us, kind of thing. He's not like us. And that just also spoke not just to color, but class. And the other time was when I took him home to my parents, and my father was very English in his ways, so he would never say anything. But my mother was more of a regte boer.
Her mother was a tall woman, about 5'11", I think. And she just looked at me.
And she pulled me aside and she said, he's very nice, but he's way too dark. You know, that kind of thing. And I remember we had the story. Well, I said, well, his parents are Greek, or his mother's Greek, I think is what I said to my mother. And she bought that. And even years later, when the whole story of Randall and his colored roots, my mother was still alive. And she said, oh, I don't believe any of that. So she was still total in denial. She loved Winston, but she just denied any kind of colored roots or roots that weren't white, even though he was very brown.
When he hired me that day, he said to me, your job is to store the heart for 24 hours so that I can fly it around the world. That was your job. And I had no idea. He had already done the heart transplant. And he had a Dr. Jacques Losman, a Belgian surgeon working for him, who was actually leaving. And they did have conflict. So he needed to find a replacement. And Jacques had trained with Professor Barnard the staff, who was actually a totally mixed race, colored and black staff, with occasional white nurse with us, white nurses. And when he introduced me, it was to this staff, and they didn't really want to work. Chris said to them, it's your boss, you just do what he says. I didn't even know what to say, because I'd just come out of college. So when I'm standing in front of them there, and Chris is gone, and they just staring at me, couldn't pick this up. A kleurling gaan vir 'n kleurling sê wat om te doen? No way. So I said to them, look, I can see I'm still a kid here compared to all of you. You know all the work that's going on, everything. You've helped all these professionals. How about you just help me? And we work together and we all make a success. And their faces changed and we became this incredibly knitted team working together. It was amazing. It went very quickly, actually. I would say no more than 3 years. We got the call. I made everything with my technician, Sharon, and with Cooper and Dimitri. Then we flew to PE, And the theme throughout this was, is it going to work? And all I've got to put is confidence in them. Sure, it will work. I'll measure the enzymes, I'll do the necessary measurements, and it should work fine. So we go in the plane. When we come back, the machine starts failing because I miscalculated for altitude change. It's an airlift pump, and it couldn't pump anymore while you're up in the sky. And the thing is empty, and I'm now lying on my stomach, and it's in the very front of this little jet, opening to look at it, and the surgeons are shouting at me, "Close the box, you're going to damage the thing." But meantime, I was in such a panic that I'm going to kill a person down the other end of the road now. But I stuck to my guns, and then in the end, as the plane was coming down, the pump started pumping properly again. And I said, "Whoa." And then they'd say, "What?" And I just sort of kept quiet. We took the heart, and I remember standing at the heart with a box, and I took a solution, a sample out to go and test, which is a very crude test at the time. And they said to me, "Is it going to work?" And I said, "Yes." We then slowly tried to get him off the pumps that keep you going, and eventually we got him off the pump. And it's just, you take a deep breath and you just feel relieved. It's done. It worked. I didn't kill him there. So.
Look, obviously what gives the story weight is the fact that there was the luck shot with Chris Barnard, if you want to put it that way, and then there was another, which is definitely not a luck shot, but through perseverance, creating this heart transportation box, which is what Winston is famous for. It was his project, and it was another first in the world. But apart from those two facts is the life that he leads.
It resonates with people. People understand the sensitivity of being different, but wanting to be accepted. And in the end, we're all people, and we're all different, and we all want to be accepted. It's only that sometimes we put class or color or income or gender. We add tags to it, whereas in the end, we're just individuals.
People say it's all just, everything turns out beautifully. No, it doesn't. We all go through a million problems, every one of us. And we still have our crosses that we're carrying, even now, that I've got to make. But I see it as a challenge. And that's the one that makes me win.